And let me go ahead and share. What am I sharing? Here we go. Okay. Alrighty. So let's do a different chord than C major. Well, C minor. So C, E flat, and G. All right. Whenever you write the chord like this, this is called a block triad, meaning that it's in its most condensed form. And the C is the note that we named the chord off of, and it's the note that we built it off of. So we built the first third is the major third, minor third. We're in a minor chord here. Oop. And then the top third was built off of that, but it all was built on that C. So that C is known as the root of the chord. And the thing to remember about a chord is once we determine that that is the root, it is forever and always the root of the chord. We will always hear C as the root. E flat is the note in the middle, and it is a third above the root, and so it is always called the third. And it will forever and always be the third. No matter how we arrange that chord, we hear E flat as the third. And then the top note is a fifth away from the bass, or from the root, sorry. I know it is a third away from the third, but when you look at the distance between G and C, I mean, the third is there in the middle, but the distance between G and C is a fifth. And it happens to be a perfect fifth because, of course, we have 3 and 4 half steps, creating the 7 half steps of the perfect fifth. So that is a perfect fifth. And G will forever and always be the fifth of the chord. And those terms stay locked in. So that's our root, that's our third, and that's our fifth. And that's important to know because as I start to arrange this chord, which right now is in what we call block position, there are more interesting things we can do than just a block position chord. You can get a lot of textures, and you can space it out in a much larger register. So for example, I could take the root of the chord and put the C here at C3. And then I could take the fifth of the chord, which is G, and put it here at G3. And now we hear that perfect fifth sonority there between those two low notes. And then maybe up here in the treble clef, I put the third of the chord, E flat. And then up here in C5, this is E flat 4. In the C5 register, I put another root. And notice that we still refer to the C's as root, even though this root is above any of the other chord tones. And we call these chord tones. These are the tones of the chord. Here the G is above the root, but notice the third is above the fifth. But it doesn't matter. We still call this the fifth of the chord. This is still the third of the chord. So there's times where it starts, you know, and it's very easy to see the idea of the root, third, and fifth when it's in block position. As we start arranging that chord, it may be harder to see. And of course, we can give this all kinds of interesting textures and patterns. So for example, maybe I can play C and G, C and G, C and G, and playing them in quarter notes. And then what's happening up here? Well, maybe I'm playing this kind of combination, an arpeggio. Remember what an arpeggio is? An arpeggio is when the notes of the chord are played like a melody. So instead of playing harmonically all at once, notice we have the C, E flat, and G up there, playing watermelons, 16th notes. So here's a fun little texture where that's still the third of the chord. There's the fifth. There's the root. That's the fifth. That's the root. Again, it doesn't matter that they're not in their block position. They have been arranged in a pattern, in a texture. and we are still going to hear what's the root, what's the third, what's the fifth. And the way to think about it is there's only one way we hear this collection of notes, and that is a C minor chord, with the C being the root, the G being the fifth, and the E flat being the third. That is the only way we hear that combination of notes. We will always hear it as C minor. But it can come in many, many different forms. And what we'll start with next semester is that one of the forms it comes in is what's called an inversion. And an inversion is when you start playing around with what is the lowest note of the chord we hear. And I'll just give you a little sneak peek at what that means. But this isn't going to be something I test you on, but it's just to kind of get you like ready for, oh yeah, this is where we're going to go. So we'll go into spacing and arranging of chords so that we can go into more interesting things than just block chords. But let's say we have the E flat down here, the C here, the G here, and the C here. So this chord has been arranged. E flat is still the third of the chord. C is still the root. C is always and forever the root. G is forever and always the fifth, even though it doesn't look like it does in block position. Here's another C, that's a root. It's been doubled. We have two roots, 1/5 and 1/3. But there's something else that's important about how music works, and that is which note is in the what we call bass position. The bass position is the lowest sounding note. And in this case, the third of the chord is in the bass position. So even though we hear this combination of notes as a C minor chord, so we're still hearing a C minor chord, we're hearing it with the E flat in the bass. And sometimes jazz or pop musicians actually use this way of showing that. It's a C minor chord, but slash E flat is in the bass. And when that happens, we say that chord is in inversion, because chords, just like intervals, can invert. And if E flat is in the bass, that is called the first inversion. If I change this chord up and the lowest sounding note is the fifth of the chord, now G is the fifth of the chord, that would change the C minor slash, we are now hearing C minor with G in the bass. Maybe the E flat is there instead. Now that is called second inversion. Only when C is the bass note, in other words, I'll put C back in there, and now C is back to being in the bass, then we would call that root position. So there's three inversions of our triad. There's the root position when C is in the bass, first inversion when the third of the chord, E flat, is in the bass, and second inversion when the fifth is in the bass. The important thing to remember is the bass does not equal the root. The bass is the lowest sounding note we have. That may be at times the root, third, or fifth of the chord. And depending, that's how our brains structure things. We like to hear what is the lowest sounding note, and then we hear the other notes above it. So that's the world of inversions. So we'll start arranging these chords in different registers, in different what we call spacings. We'll start giving them different textures, and we'll start putting them in different inversions. And then we'll learn how to start connecting one chord to another in a way that's the most pleasing and musical. All right. So all of that, of course, is covered in Unit 15. So if anything was like, oh, that's a lot, go review Unit 15. Again, we're not covering inversions. That was just a little sneak peek. But the idea of the root, third, and fifth, and the idea of arranging a chord, and that the idea that the root, third, and fifth stay fixed in their functions. C will always be the root in that chord. E flat is always the third in that chord. G always the fifth. Even as I arrange it in different ways, we still perceive those chord tones to be functioning that way. All right, I'll take any questions. Otherwise, I'll give you a few more ideas about what's going to be on the final so that you can get yourself mentally prepared. All right. So you'll have the natural thirds chart, where you have to lay out all of the natural thirds, both major and minor, and work with those chromatic semitones, either raising or lower them to work with that quality. And you'll have a chart that shows all of the thirds, just like we did, both naturally major thirds and both naturally minor thirds. And you'll turn that chart in by Wednesday, and I will send a PDF of that chart. That'll be turned in by Wednesday night. And that will be also one of the things that you then have to do a speed drill, we'll call it, in Blackboard on that chart on the natural thirds. You'll then also have to do a speed drill on chords. I should call it this way. And you'll use that chart for both of those. They're not going to have huge number of questions. They may have 6 or 10 questions. It's just that they're going to be timed. So it's not an overwhelming number of questions. I'm most interested in seeing that the chart has been filled out, that you knew what to do, that you understood that, and that you could then answer basic questions about it in a way that shows me you understand the concepts, because you were able to answer those questions pretty quickly in real time. There'll be another chart that shows the semitones in the intervals, as well as the process of inversion. So you'll have that as well. Charts. And that will be like, well, a perfect union has 0 semitones, a minor second has 1 semitone, a major second has 2, a minor third has 3. Onward, you get to the tritone at 6 semitones. No, it's an augmented fourth, or augmented fourth or diminished fifth. And know the pattern of inversions, how seconds invert to seventh, thirds to sixths, fourths to fifths. The perfects stay perfect, majors become minors, and diminished to augmenteds. That won't take you very long to fill that chart out if you know what that is. But I'll give you that chart. That'll be to be figured out as well. And then there'll also be a speed drill for that chart. So all these charts will have like a little speed drill on them. And those will be like, I'll say, you know, what interval is 2 semitones? Oh, a major second. What interval is a tritone can be spelled in 2 different ways. What are they? Oh, augmented fourth, diminished fifth. A second inverts to, a seventh. A major second would invert to major inverts to minor, seconds invert to seventh, so a major second would invert to a minor seventh. It'll be questions like that, but again, they'll be timed so that you have to be like, wait, I know that chart and I know how that information works. So there'll be that chart that you have to do. And so now I think you're getting the idea of how this is all working. You're going to be filling out these charts and then answering questions about them. The charts you have lots of time to fill out, to do carefully, make sure they're accurate. The speed questions that I'm asking, not so much time. You have to understand what I'm asking and know exactly where on the charts you should be. And that's what I'll be testing. Whoops. A couple of other things then that we'll do. Here, let me come back to this one. And I'll go over this all again on Monday, just so that you have a chance to process this, understand this. I'll get the charts to you so that you can start looking at them and getting an idea of what needs to be done. But you'll have your circle of fifths chart. And the circle of fifths chart will be for both majors and minors. And you'll have a chart, you just have to fill out the chart. Some of you have maybe already done this in terms of the majors. I know the drill packet that I had submitted, drill packet 2 had this for the majors. Then it's just a question of also getting the minors in. so that you know what the minors are. I'll stop that. There we go. And knowing that that's 1 sharp, 2 sharps, 3 sharps, that you know that you go this way, you're going to get F major, which is D minor, at 1 flat. You're going to have the whole circle of charts, circle of fifths chart filled in. Know the order of sharps with that. Cats go down, alleys, eating, I'm running out of room, birds, the order of flats. All of that will be on your charts. Great. Chicago fire. And then the kind of speed questions I'll ask will be like, G major uses how many sharps? Oh, well, 1 sharp. What is the relative major of B minor? Oh, D major. What is the key signature of the parallel major of A minor? Oh, A major, it's 3 sharps. What are the 3 sharps in A major? F sharp, C sharp, G sharp. So I will ask these speed questions about the relatives, the key signatures, the number of sharps, the number of flats, what kind of sharps and flats, and you just have to be able to answer that. You won't know what those questions are. They'll pop up and they'll say, what is the key signature for the parallel major of A minor? And you have to go, well, parallel major A minor would be A major. It's 3 sharps. The 3 sharps are that. Okay, F sharp, C sharp, G sharp. If it's taking you 5 minutes to answer that question, you're not going to get very many questions answered on the test. But if you can quickly recognize what I'm asking and where those are, most of the questions will be a little more straightforward, like what is the key signature of F? 1 flat. What flat is it? B flat. What are the 3 sharps used in A major? F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp. I may give you a scale choice. Example. We had some of this in the Blackboard drills. I may say, I know this is getting a little sloppy. You may get a choice of 3 scales or 4 scales, and I'll say which one is the correct notes for the A major scale. You could look on the chart very quickly, see A major needs 3 sharps, and the 3 sharps are F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, so this is the one. This one doesn't make any sense. It uses 2. This one only uses 2. Maybe it will be like this. It's like, well, that uses 3, but the B sharp makes no sense. If you know how to read your circle of fifths charts and know what it means, these questions will be easy to answer even when you're under time pressure. And then again, when you're done, you'll have a grade for the speed drill that will be part of that. And you'll submit your circle of fifths chart to me, and you'll get credit for both. So those will be the speed drills. You'll have a speed drill on the natural thirds and their modifications, as well as using those to build chords. You'll have a speed drill on the number of semitones in intervals, as well as how interval inversion works. And you'll have a speed drill on the circle of fifths charts, learning how the major and minors work, and knowing also the parallel and relatives. So those are the speed drills. I know it sounds like a lot, but there's one more drill packet that will come, but it won't have an accompanying speed drill. It will just be things for you to solve. It won't be that many things, and it's things that you've all done. But it will, I'll show you exactly what it is. And that is the last thing that will be on the final. So in addition to these charts that you have to fill out and then do a speed drill on to show me that you understand what those charts are and that you can read them and understand the concepts, there'll be a series of challenges that I will give you. Some of them involve diagramming scales. Well, they actually all involve diagramming scales and writing the scales out in key signatures or accidentals as needed. So it won't be long. It'll be like 2 or 3 scales to diagram out in a note garden, and a set of relative and parallel scales to do. So What did I do wrong? All right. We all know this pattern. Whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. That's the pattern of the major scale. We've also all know this pattern. Whole, half, whole, whole, half, whole, whole. Well, it turns out there's a lot of scales that use a combination of 5 whole steps and 2 half steps. And as long as the, well, there's certain rules about it, but in general, I can create other patterns, other scales that are known, what are known as the modal scales, that use a combination of 5 wholes and 2 halves that will, like the major and minor, also conform to the circle of fifths, meaning that if they use 1 flat, it will be B flat. If it uses 2 flats, it'll be B flat and E flat. And they'll all kind of follow that circle of fifths. If it uses 3 sharps, it's F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp. But I'll give you an example. So notice this is neither major nor minor. Whole, half, whole, 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 half, whole. So let's see what happens when I do that scale starting on C. And the way this drill will work is that I know you know major and minor scales are very easy to look up, but I'm going to have a little bit of fun. What I'm testing is, are you able to follow a scale pattern, even if it's not the major or minor? Because what's being tested is, can you go the distance of a whole and a half step, show that distance in the note garden, and know what the spelling of the notes are? And so that's what I'm testing. And what I'm going to want to see is the pattern of arcs and angle brackets to show where whole and half are. And then you're going to have to make spelling choices about what's going on. So, actually, I can keep that. All right, let's see if we can have a volunteer. Let's see. Who's got the microphone? Let's go with Jadelyn. Is your microphone working yet, or are you still going to be on text? Because we can do this text as well. All right. Yeah, Jadelyn, are you there? Let's go with Forrest. Forrest, are you there?
Yeah, what's up?
All right, excellent. All right, the task falls to you. Next in line. All right, so we're going to follow this pattern: whole, half, whole, 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 half, whole. This is a different scale than the major or minor, but it's going to follow the same rules. So C up a whole step takes us to where?
D.
Correct. So D up a half step takes us to where?
D flat, or sorry, D sharp.
Now, how would we spell it in the scale? Because we don't want to go C, D, D sharp.
E flat.
E flat, exactly. So the D sharp doesn't make any sense. E flat is how we'll spell it. Now, we've done our half step. What's next in the pattern?
Whole step.
And that takes us to where?
It takes us to F.
There we go. What's next in the pattern?
Another whole step, which takes us to G.
There we go. Now, so far that is the notes of C minor, but in the C minor scale, next we would have a half step, which would take us to A flat, But this pattern, I'm saying go another whole step. So that takes you to where?
It'll take us to A.
There's A. So this is not a minor scale. This is a different scale. Now the half step occurs here. And so A goes up a half step to?
To B flat.
Exactly. And then the final whole step takes us back to?
C.
There we go. So C major used no flats or sharps. C minor should use 3. But this is not major nor minor. This is known as C Dorian. This is called the Dorian scale. And it's one of the other, it's what's called one of the modal scales. And it's one of the other scales that it's another scale that uses 5 whole steps and 2 half steps and conforms to the circle of fifths, because notice, although it uses 2 flats, the flats that it uses, B flat and E flat, are the same 2 flats that we find in the order of flats derived through the circle of fifths. So there's a lot of modal scales out there. There's Dorian, Mixolydian, there's Phrygian, there's Lydian. And they're all these kind of different scales that use the same pattern of 5 whole and 2 halves. Now that's not what I'm testing you on. Some of you may have heard of the modal scales, you may know of them. But I'm not using this to test you on your knowledge of modal scales, because I'm not going to even tell you what scale it is. I'm just using it to make sure that you can diagram in the that you have an understanding of whole and half steps work, and that you could, in essence, create any scale I ask for that follows a pattern of whole and half steps, 5 whole steps and 2 half steps, and that you would be able to follow the rules of spelling, which are the same whether it's the major, minor, or any of the modal scales, what we call the Dorian, Mixolydian, Phrygian, and there's another Locrian mode. And so you're going to get answers that are neither major nor minor. And they're going to be little mysteries, like, oh my gosh, which is this going to be? I have no idea. How many sharps or flats is it going to use? I don't know, because I have to diagram it to find out. So it's like unwrapping a little Christmas gift and figuring out how many sharps or flats are going to be in that modal scale. So does that make sense? Like I said, I'm not testing you on your knowledge of modal scales. I'm actually testing you on your knowledge of how whole and half steps work with spelling of scales, which is a scale we've been doing with major and minor scales. I'm just applying it to a slightly different set of scales. So that'll be one of the challenges you have. So don't get freaked out by it. It's something you've done before. And then the final thing, the final little challenge that you'll have, and there won't be that many of them, because I don't need to see that many, just 2 or 3. I just need to see enough that, one, you understand the distance of whole and half steps, understand how to spell them correctly in a scale, and then you'll know that you've done it right when it's neither the major nor minor, it's neither C minor nor C major, but the flats and sharps it's using seem to conform to the same order. Like if, okay, this used 3 sharps, it's F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp, but it's not A major and it's not F sharp minor, so it's one of the modals. And I'll give you the pattern. The other thing then that I'll do, the last thing, is you'll see the 2 charts. The charts for the relatives and the charts for the parallels. And remember, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You'll see this chart where there's the first scale degrees, and I highlight the idea of the 6 scale degrees. And I'll give you a key. We'll make this one easy, C major, and then you have to figure out, you know, the rest of the chart. And this is the relative, of course. And the relative means, well, we're taking C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C. A is therefore the tonic of the relative minor. So A minor will be the scale that uses the same set of notes. So A to B, B to C. And it's using all the same notes. It's just that we're starting on A as the tonic, and we get the relationship known as the relative. And I'll ask for you to then write those scales out, and I'll ask for you to write the harmonic form of the A minor scale, which means that, well, that's when that goes up, the 7th scale degree goes up 1 chromatic semitone. So you have to know what a harmonic minor scale is as well. You won't have to draw the harmonic minor in the chart. I just showed you what it would look like. The harmonic minor will be, oh, my slideshow is getting tired. It doesn't want to switch again. You'll have to write those scales out in staff notation. So the natural minor would be like there's A minor. And then the harmonic minor would be G sharp as we raise the 7th scale degree. So I'll be testing your knowledge of the relative and parallels and see if you have an understanding of that harmonic minor and knowing how to make it. And that's what that'll test. If it's the parallel, you'll of course see it this way. And the parallel will show you, it'll show the third, 6th, and 7th scale degrees. Those are the modal scale degrees. And again, it'll see like C major. So actually the C major will be up here. And it'll be, therefore, what's the parallel? Well, the parallel is C minor. So we know C, D, E, F, G, A, B. What did I do wrong? A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. Oh, I know what I did wrong. 6 and 7 are in the wrong place. And of course, you have to know I'm running out of time. What I've done something wrong again? Why is that A at the end? Because I'm feeling rushed. Okay, so remember that in the parallels, you're dealing with the modal scale degrees. They need to go down 1 chromatic semitone. Again, we've covered that already. And then you'll have to write those scales, the C major. And then when you write the C minor, so the last thing I show, because we're running out of time. C minor, of course, uses the key signature of the 3 flats. C, D, E flat, F, G, A, B flat, C. That would be the parallel minor. If I want to make it harmonic minor, it's the 7th scale degree that goes back up 1 chromatic semitone. It goes back to B natural, what it was in the parallel major. But I need to add the natural to get rid of the flat because it needs to go up from B flat to B. And that's the harmonic minor, and now that's a leading tone. I know that was a little bit rushed, but a whole unit on how the parallel minors and relative minors work, how to fill out these charts. There's a whole unit on the importance of the harmonic minor scale, how to conceive of it, and how to do it. So if you need to review those units, then go ahead and review those units. But that will be what you have, that will be the last set of challenges that you have to do. There will be no speed drills. You just submit these to me. All right, so that is the final. And I know there's a lot of components and pieces to it, and that's because we're in an online environment. So it's not just simple of like, oh, come to class and I will make a test available and you can solve it and then give it to me. There's various proficiencies you need to kind of show. You got to fill out all these charts, show me that you understand what the information in the chart is showing. You get a couple of challenges that you have to write out and notate and show me you have an understanding of whole and half steps as they pertain to scales, that you know parallel and relatives, including the harmonic. And then there's the final piano video that I'm giving you a little bit more time on. All right. Whew. Like I said, if you're overwhelmed, relax. I will pass out the charts to you and you'll see exactly what they are so that you get your hands on them and go, okay, let me digest this. And then on Monday from 11 to 12, we'll meet just from 11 to 12. And I'll once again go over the requirements of the final or take any questions or answer any concerns you have of it. So you have a chance to kind of start to digest what is being asked of you. You'll get a chance to look at what the materials look like, and then you'll get a chance to ask questions. And then after class on Monday, I'll make the speed drills available. And so when you're comfortable with your charts and comfortable that you'll be able to answer questions quickly about them, you can go ahead and take the speed drills and then submit to me all the charts, and all that gets done by Wednesday midnight. And then by Thursday midnight, I need the piano video as well. So like I said, spend your time starting to practice the piano. Don't be scared by it. And set realistic expectations. If you're not going to get through all the skills, that's okay. But just make a determination of how many of those piano skills you want to get through. And come prepared with questions on Monday so that you don't feel like, I don't know what I'm doing. It should all be very clear at that point. All righty, any last minute questions? If not, we are done. No, I won't send you a printable one. It's but I will let you know where in the lectures it was. So all that is due right now, whoops. Let me answer Forrest's question. I'll send you information on which unit the complete circle of fifths was in, and you can get it from there, or you can Google it. The problem with Googling a circle of fifths chart is that sometimes they're not accurate. People put things up online and they're not always, usually they're accurate, but not always complete. They don't show all of the scales. But there is one that is in the slideshow, and I'll let you know where in the slideshow it is. So I'll make you go, in other words, I'll make you go find it, but I'll let you know exactly where it is rather than just send it to you. For some reason, I feel like that's better. I'm not quite sure why, but it's a little better than just sending, here, copy this. All that's due right now is the video assignments, right? Yeah, I mean, the only thing that you have to work on right now are the video of the piano skills, and that's all in Unit 16. So you can start working on those, and that's all you have right now, and that'll be due on Thursday. Either today or tomorrow or Friday, I'll send you the rest of the test materials, and then you can either start getting to work on them a little bit, start maybe doing, try one, try and get through one, save the other, do a little bit more piano, go back and do one of the drills, do a little more piano, space it out, and you'll have until Wednesday to get those all filled out and the speed drill submitted, and then you can go back to working on the piano. So I know there's lots of little skills in there, but once you have everything, I think it'll make sense. All right, any other questions? Otherwise, you are all free to go, but I'll stay here a little bit if you have any further questions. All righty, looks good. All right, this is our last official class. Like I say, on Monday, it'll just be a question and answer session, and I'll just cover what your responsibilities are for the final, just so you're very, very clear on it. All right. Good job, everyone. I will see you on Monday, and I look forward to all your charts and your videos.